Durban who has gone to vote, I'm going to call on.
You're blaming it on Durban, huh? I understand. I apologize for
I
going
take
over.
full
Thank you, General.
responsibility. Senator.
Thank you, Senator Kennedy, for the grace. And thank you very much for being here. I just want to confirm, because I've heard some misstatements. Fentanyl is permanently scheduled at Schedule 2, correct?
Yes, the discussion is about fentanyl analogs.
So let's go to fentanyl analogs. Fentanyl analogs are scheduled now at Schedule 1. They are not expiring this year. Fentanyl analogs are Schedule 2, the expiration date for which is at the end of 2024, correct?
It might be the fiscal year. I'm not sure exactly.
But it's in the year, it's not 2023, it's at the end of the year 2024.
Yeah,
fiscal or not?
I'm not exactly sure of the time. I know that there's short time on this, and we believe it should be re-upped.
Okay. I want to jump into the executive order from President Biden on policing. It took really important steps to ensure that federal law enforcement agencies are engaging the best practices to make themselves and the public safer. Some of these policies the department has adopted and is making great progress on, including limitations on chokeholds, guidelines for no-knock warrants, which is extraordinarily dangerous for police officers themselves, and a cleaner standard for the use of deadly force. Even the Trump EO, though, included the need for us to have a database that is, I guess, called an accountability database to serve as a repository for officer misconduct records within the next 8 months, which is now this past January. Trump's executive order, which was issued in June of 2020, also directed the Attorney General to create such a database to collect this information. What's the status now on that?
Yeah, there's a working group run by the Deputy Attorney General to stand this up. As you can imagine, there are difficulties with respect to getting reporting and also difficulties with respect to defining what a determination has been made. But we are seized with this, and we are working full speed ahead to get this done.
I'm grateful and hope we can continue to communicate on that. It's invaluable. And the EO directed you to encourage state and local agencies to contribute to the database. How's that going?
Yeah, we have made outreach to all the major law enforcement organizations who support this proposition. We are making outreach to state and local law enforcement. We are making progress. I can't really say more than that at this point, not because I don't want to say, but because I don't know.
Okay. The Biden administration, in cooperation with the Congress, acting in a bipartisan manner, has put significant amounts of money into the COPS grant program. In fact, I think under the last Congress, it was one of the highest amounts of money given to programs that help local police departments. Really proud that President Biden did that. I'm just curious what processes are in place to ensure that the funds are being used for intended purposes. Does the department audit those grants?
Yeah, whenever a government agency gives out grants, there's always a risk, and so we have very tight auditing and review processes for these grants.
And do you have the resources you need to adequately audit the grants in your estimation, or is that something that Congress might act to give you the more resources?
I'm going to say again to you what I've said before. Whenever anybody wants to offer me more resources, I'm happy to have them. But I think we're capable of doing what the Congress wanted us to do with the resources we have right now.
I appreciate that wise response. In December of 2021, you said the department would exercise its discretion to ensure that people released on home confinement under the CARES Act would not unnecessarily return to prison. My experience, I've been visiting prisons since I was a law student, and I usually go in and ask wardens, who are often tough men and women who really are about the protection of their officers, the community at large, and I always ask, are there people here that are a waste of taxpayer money? And they will often tell me stories about elderly folks, infirmed folks. But here now we had a pandemic, as you know, and there was a release program with really high standards to meet for anyone being released. And I appreciated your comments on this matter in the past. I just want to ask, can you confirm that the department will not revoke individuals released under the CARES Act for minor violations. We always know there's so-called status violations where somebody might cross a county line or do something that is a technical violation, which is often minor. They're not a threat to public safety. Can you confirm again that the department will not revoke individuals that are released under the CARES Act for these so-called status violations once the public health emergency expires?
Yeah, so just to give the full context, the CARES Act allowed us to put people in home confinement who we ordinarily would not have been able to do because of the length of time remaining on their sentence. The question was raised whether those people would have to go back after the expiration, which is now going to be in May, I believe. The Office of Legal Counsel, interpreting the statute, found that they would not have to go back, that all that was necessary was that the Attorney General put them into home confinement. When I say the Attorney General, I mean the Justice Department and the Bureau of Prisons, and that they could remain subject to what the normal rules are on having to go back. So if somebody commits the kind of violations that would normally require somebody to go back to prison from home confinement, those would apply, but no special rules to people who came under the CARES Act. And let me also say in support of what you said, there's now been enough time to have statistical data on recidivism, has found that the people out on the CARES Act, the number of serious crimes committed is extremely tiny and not of concern.
All right. On July 16th, my last question, my penultimate question. On July 16th, 2022, you said that the Justice Department is examining marijuana policy and will be addressing the issue in the days ahead. And in October of 2022, President Biden urged an expeditious review of the schedule of cannabis and directed individuals federally incarcerated for cannabis possession be expunged. What is the current state of the review of cannabis at the Justice Department, and when can we expect policy changes on this important issue?
I think everything that you said is correct. The president commuted sentences, and this is still working its way through the system to get the final certificates of commutation, but that is accomplished. The HHS is working on the question of scientific analysis of marijuana. And within the department, we are still working on a marijuana policy for the department. I have to say that the crack powder thing came first in my list of things that had to be done first, but that was accomplished, as you already know. And I think that it's fair to expect what I said at my confirmation hearing with respect to marijuana policy, that it will be very close to what was done in the Cole memorandum, Deputy Attorney General Cole in the Obama administration. But we're not quite done with that yet.
Well, I'm very eager to get to hear more about that, and I'm hoping that you can give that review. The complicated policies as more and more states, red and blue, are moving. It'd be good to hear that as quickly as possible. And I just would like you to respond for the record. There's some scurrilous statements out there that you're dissatisfied with your chief of staff and would like him to be replaced by his eldest son. So if you could respond on the record for me at some point about that.
The only bad mark in his resume is that he worked for you once, so.
Thank you, sir.
Senator Blackburn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Mr. Attorney General. Thank you for your time today. Listening to the questions and the answers and your responses, what is coming clear to me as I listen to this is basically in